The Phoenix cut through space like a silver needle, its engines humming quietly as it approached the green and blue planet below. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the world grow larger on the main screen. After 18 months of travel, they had finally reached Kepler 442b. "Beautiful planet," said Dr. Lisa Parker, stepping up beside him. The xenobiologist had been studying the early scans for weeks. "The atmosphere readings are perfect. Oxygen levels even higher than Earth." Jake nodded. "Any word from the inhabitants?" They've been sending signals for the past 3 days. Very polite. Very formal. They seem excited to meet us." Lisa pulled up a datapad. "They call themselves the Vellani. The translation software is working well with their language." Chef Alex Rodriguez joined them at the observation window. He had requested to see the planet before they landed. "Look at all that green. I bet they have amazing fruits and vegetables down there. Maybe some new spices too." The communication officer turned from her station. "Captain, we're getting another message from the planet. They want to guide us to their main city." "Put it through," Jake said. The screen flickered and showed a tall, thin figure with skin that looked like it was made of clear crystal. 4 arms moved gracefully as the being spoke. The translation came through clearly. "Welcome, travelers from Earth. I am Elder Zenthara. We are honored by your visit. Please follow the coordinates we are sending. Our city awaits you." Jake smiled and stepped forward. "Thank you, Elder Zenthara. We look forward to meeting your people. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration vessel Phoenix." The alien's large eyes seemed to shine with joy. "Humans. Yes, we have studied your messages. You come in peace, as do we. Land safely, friends." 2 hours later, the Phoenix touched down in a clearing outside the most amazing city any of the humans had ever seen. Towers of crystal rose into the sky, catching the light and throwing rainbows everywhere. The buildings seemed to grow from the ground like giant trees, all curves and smooth surfaces. A group of Vellani waited for them. They were all tall, at least 8 feet, with that same crystal-like skin. Their 4 arms moved in patterns that seemed like dancing. They wore robes of soft colors that changed as they moved. Jake led the landing party down the ramp. Lisa carried her scientific equipment, while Alex brought a case of Earth foods as gifts. Marine Sergeant Kelly Barnes and 3 other security personnel followed, though their weapons stayed hidden. Elder Zenthara stepped forward. Up close, the alien was even more impressive. The crystal skin was not really crystal, but something that looked like it. Jake could see what might be veins or nerves glowing softly beneath the surface. "Captain Morrison," the elder said, all 4 arms spreading wide in what was clearly a greeting. "You and your people honor us. Welcome to Veltar, our greatest city." Jake tried to copy the arm gesture, though he only had 2 arms. "Thank you for welcoming us, Elder. We bring greetings from Earth and all humanity." The ceremony that followed was like nothing the humans had expected. Hundreds of Vellani gathered in a great plaza made of the same crystal material as the buildings. They sang in voices that sounded like wind chimes, and their crystal skin flickered with patterns of light. Food was brought on floating platforms. Strange fruits that tasted like music, vegetables that changed color as you ate them, and drinks that bubbled with their own light. Alex was in heaven, asking question after question about how everything was prepared. "Your world is incredible," Lisa said to a young Vellani scientist named Catherine. "How do you grow food in crystal soil?" "The crystal is alive," Catherine explained, her 4 arms gesturing to the ground. "It feeds the plants with light and minerals. Everything grows in harmony here." As the celebration continued, Jake noticed that all the Vellani seemed to stay close to the city. Beyond the crystal towers, thick jungle stretched to the horizon. Beautiful, but empty of any Villani. Elder Zenthara, Jake said during a quiet moment, your jungles look amazing. Do your people ever explore them? The elder's glowing skin suddenly went dark. All conversation around them stopped. Jake felt like he had said something terrible. Captain Morrison, the elder said slowly, we do not speak of the jungles after dark. They are forbidden places, places of death. Lisa leaned forward. Death? What's in the jungles? Elder Zenthara looked around nervously. Other Villani had moved away, clearly afraid. The Shadow Maws, he whispered. The great hunters. The death. That walks in darkness. Alex stopped eating. Shadow Maws? Monsters, said Catherine, her voice shaking. 12 feet tall. Claws like swords. Hide like armor. They hunt anything that moves. For 1,000,000 years, they have kept us trapped in our cities. Kelly Barnes, the Marine sergeant, looked interested. How big did you say? Bigger than any of us, the elder said. Faster than the wind. Silent as shadows. They fear nothing. They kill everything. Even speaking their name brings bad luck. The other humans exchanged glances. Jake could see that Kelly was thinking the same thing he was. The creatures sounded dangerous, but not impossible. Earth had plenty of large predators. Have you ever tried to fight them? Kelly asked. The Villani looked shocked. Fight the Shadow Maws? That would be suicide. Nothing can fight them and live. They are death itself. Lisa pulled out her tablet and started making notes. Can you tell us more about their behavior? Where they live? What they eat? They eat everything, Elder Zenthara said. Plants, animals, anything they find. They live in the deep jungle, where the crystal light cannot reach. They come out to hunt when the sun set. Suns? Alex asked. You have more than one sun? 2, Catherine explained. When both suns set, complete darkness comes. That is when the Shadow Maws rule. Jake looked up at the sky. One sun was already setting, and he could see another, smaller sun still high above. As the first sun disappeared, the jungle seemed to grow darker and more threatening. We should return you to your ship, the elder said quickly. The darkness brings danger. Even here, close to the city, we are not completely safe. But as they walked back toward the Phoenix, Kelly Barnes was looking toward the jungle with the expression of a hunter studying new territory. Lisa was already planning research expeditions in her head, and Alex was wondering what a 12-foot-tall apex predator might taste like. The Villani had no idea that they had just introduced Earth's most dangerous species to their planet's most dangerous predator. And in the minds of the humans, the Shadow Maws had already stopped being monsters and started being interesting problems to solve. Elder Zenthara watched the humans board their ship, feeling relieved that his new friends were safe. He had no way of knowing that safety was not what the humans were thinking about. They were thinking about hunting Season Dot as the Phoenix sealed its doors for the night. Jake gathered his senior staff in the conference room. Well, that was educational, he said. Fascinating species, Lisa added. Highly advanced, but completely controlled by fear of a large predator. Kelly grinned. 12 feet tall and armored hide. Sounds like fun. Alex was already making notes. I'm thinking slow roasting might work best. Maybe a good marinade first. Jake looked at his people and smiled. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. The next morning came with both suns shining bright over the Crystal City. Jake Morrison stood in the Phoenix mess hall, drinking coffee and watching his crew eat breakfast. The mood was different today. Everyone seemed excited about something. Captain, Kelly Barnes said, walking up with her plate still half full. I've been thinking about those Shadow Maws all night. I figured you might be, Jake replied with a small smile. Dr. Sam Cooper, the team's biologist, joined them at the table. He was new to the crew, younger than the others, but very smart. I ran some calculations based on what the Velani told us. These creatures sound like evolved megafauna, probably similar to Earth's ancient cave bears, but bigger. Alex Rodriguez appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. Cave bears were good eating, from what I read. Lot of meat on something that big. Lisa Parker walked over, carrying her research tablet. The Velani have agreed to let us study their historical records today, but they made me promise we wouldn't ask about going into the jungle. Kelly set down her fork. What if we didn't ask? Everyone looked at her. Jake raised an eyebrow. Sergeant Barnes, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that we're explorers. Kelly said, we came here to learn about this planet. How can we learn anything if we let fear stop us from exploring? Sam nodded eagerly. The scientific value would be incredible. A living apex predator from an alien ecosystem. We could learn so much. And the practical value, Alex added. If these things are really as dangerous as the Velani say, we need to understand them. What if they attack the city while we're here? Jake looked around at his people. He could see the excitement in their eyes. These were humans who had traveled across space to find new things. Being told something was too dangerous. Had never stopped humans before. Lisa, what's your opinion? He asked. Lisa thought for a moment. The Velani are peaceful people. They've never developed weapons beyond basic tools. To them, a large predator would seem impossible to fight. But we're not them. Jake made his decision. Kelly, pick 2 people. Take basic weapons and recording equipment. Stay in contact at all times, and for heaven's sake, be careful. Kelly grinned. Yes, sir. Sam, you want to see one of these things up close? Sam nearly jumped out of his chair. Absolutely. Alex? Kelly looked at the chef. Someone needs to stay here and prepare, Alex said. But I want pictures. Lots of pictures. An hour later, Kelly Barnes led a small team toward the jungle edge. Sam Cooper carried scientific equipment and cameras. The third member was Rick Chun, the ship's survival expert. Rick had grown up hunting in Alaska and knew more about tracking large predators than anyone else on the crew. They had told the Velani they were going to study plants near the city. It was not exactly a lie, but it was not exactly the truth either. The jungle was like nothing any of them had ever seen. Trees stretched up hundreds of feet, their trunks covered in crystal formations that caught and scattered light. Vines hung down like curtains, and strange flowers glowed with soft colors. Air's clean, Rick said, checking his instruments. Little. Thicker than Earth normal, but good to breathe. Sam was already taking pictures of everything. Look at this ecosystem. The crystal formations seem to be part of the plants themselves. They're using the crystals to gather and focus light energy. Kelly moved ahead, her rifle ready but not raised. She had learned long ago that looking aggressive made animals more likely to attack. Any signs of large animal movement? Rick knelt down and studied the ground. Plenty of small tracks. Things about the size of rabbits, maybe some cat-sized. Creatures, but look at this. He pointed to a tree trunk. Claw marks, big ones, about 8 feet up. Sam measured the marks with his equipment. 12 inches long, 2 inches deep. Whatever made these has serious claws. They moved deeper into the jungle, following what looked like an animal trail. The crystal formations were less common here, and the light was dimmer. Strange sounds echoed through the trees. Birds that sounded like bells, insects that buzzed in harmony, and something in the distance that might have been singing. This place is incredible, Sam whispered. The biodiversity must be off the charts. Kelly held up her hand for silence. She had heard something different, a sound that did not belong with the jungle music. A low growling that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Rick froze. He had heard it too. His hand moved slowly to his sidearm. The growling stopped. The jungle went completely quiet. Even the bellbirds stopped singing. "That's not good," Rick said very softly. Something moved in the shadows ahead. Something big. Kelly could see a shape between the trees, but it was hard to make out. The creature seemed to blend with the shadows, like it was made of darkness itself. Then it stepped into a patch of light. Kelly had seen bears in Alaska. She had seen lions in Africa. She had even seen the reconstructed skeletons of ancient predators in museums. But the Shadow Maw was something else entirely. It stood 12 feet tall at the shoulder, just like the Villani had said. Its body was covered in what looked like black armor plating, but moved like skin. 4 powerful legs ended in claws that were each the size of a knife. Its head was massive, with jaws that could easily bite a human in half. Yellow eyes, each the size of a dinner plate, stared at them with intelligence that was definitely not friendly. "Holy cow," Sam breathed, his camera clicking rapidly. The Shadow Maw tilted its head, studying them. It had probably never seen anything like humans before. Its nostrils flared, testing their scent. Kelly slowly raised her rifle, not to aim, just to be ready. The creature's eyes followed the movement. "It's deciding whether we're prey or threat," Rick said quietly. "Don't run." Running triggers the chase response. The Shadow Maw took a step forward, then another. It moved with the smooth confidence of something that had never lost a fight. Sam kept taking pictures, his scientific excitement overriding his fear. "Look at the muscle development, the bone structure. This thing is built for killing." "I noticed," Kelly said, finally bringing her rifle up to firing position. The Shadow Maw saw the aggressive movement and made its decision. It opened its mouth, showing teeth like white daggers, and roared. The sound was incredible. It shook the trees and made the ground vibrate. Kelly felt it in her bones, in her chest, in her soul. It was the sound of death announcing itself. But Kelly Barnes was a United States Marine. She had faced enemy fire on 3 different worlds. She had stared down charging alien predators before. And she had grown up in Texas, where everything tried to kill you, and you killed it right back. She aimed carefully and squeezed the trigger. 3 times. The rifle cracked like thunder in the quiet jungle. The first shot hit the creature in the chest. The second hit its shoulder. The third caught it right between those huge yellow eyes. As Shadow Maw stumbled backward, surprise replacing aggression in its expression. It looked down at the red spreading across its dark armor, then back at the humans. For a moment, it seemed confused that something so small had hurt it. Then it collapsed. The jungle stayed quiet for a long moment. Then slowly, the sounds of life returned. The bellbirds started singing again. Insects began to buzz. Somewhere in the distance, something howled, but it sounded sad rather than threatening. Kelly lowered her rifle and walked forward to examine their prize. Sam followed, his camera still clicking. Rick shook his head in amazement. "The Villani said these things were unstoppable," Rick said. "The Villani never had rifles," Kelly replied, kneeling beside the massive creature. "Sam, you getting good pictures?" "Amazing." "Pictures," Sam said, measuring and photographing everything. "This is going to revolutionize xenobiology. Look at this bone density, the muscle fiber arrangement. It's like evolution designed the perfect killing machine." Kelly spoke into her radio. "Phoenix, this is Barnes. Mission successful. We found a Shadow Maw." Jake's voice came back immediately. "Status report. Is everyone okay?" "Everyone's fine, Captain. The Shadow Maw is down." "Repeat, the Shadow Maw is down." There was silence for a moment. Then Alex Rodriguez's voice came through the channel. "Kelly, please tell me you're bringing it back." Kelly looked at the massive creature, then at Rick. "Think we can move this thing?" Rick was already studying the problem. "It's big, But we brought the hover sled. Take us a couple hours, but yeah, we can get it back. Sam looked up from his measurements. This is incredible. Wait until the Vellani see this. Wait until Earth sees this. Kelly smiled as she started preparing the creature for transport. She was already thinking about the look on Elder Zenthiara's face when they showed up with humanities. First Shadowmaw, the hunt was over. Now the real fun could begin. The hover sled moved slowly through the jungle, carrying its massive cargo. Kelly Barnes walked beside it, keeping watch for any other Shadowmaws that might be attracted by the smell of blood. Sam Cooper sat on the sled next to the dead creature, still taking measurements and pictures. Rit Chun guided the sled from the front, following their path back to the city. Alex is going to lose his mind when he sees this, Rick said, carefully steering around a large crystal formation. The whole crew is going to lose their minds, Sam replied, running his hands along the creature's armored hide. This skin is incredible. It's flexible like leather, but hard like metal. How does that even work? Kelly checked her watch. We've been gone 4 hours. The Vellani are probably starting to worry. She was right. As they emerged from the jungle, they could see a crowd of Vellani gathered near the Phoenix. Elder Zenthara stood at the front of the group, his crystal skin flickering with patterns that Sam had learned meant anxiety. The moment the Vellani saw the hover sled and its cargo, everything changed. The crowd went completely silent. Then someone screamed. Then everyone started talking at once in voices high with panic. Elder Zenthara stumbled backward, all 4 of his arms shaking. Impossible, he whispered. Impossible. Jake Morrison came running down the Phoenix's ramp, followed by Lisa Parker and Alex Rodriguez. Jake stopped short when he saw the Shadowmaw. Well, I'll be damned, he said quietly. Alex pushed past everyone else and walked straight to the sled. He circled the creature slowly, examining it like a master chef studying a prize piece of meat. Look at this marbling in the muscle tissue. Look at the size of those haunches. Kelly, you beautiful genius, you just brought me the best ingredients I've ever seen. The Vellani crowd pressed closer, but kept their distance. They seemed torn between terror and curiosity. Many of them had never seen a Shadowmaw before, even a dead one. Catherine, the young Vellani scientist, approached very slowly. It is really dead? She asked in a small voice. Very dead, Kelly confirmed. 3 shots, center mass and head. You killed it with your weapons? Elder Zenthara asked, his voice full of disbelief. Standard hunting rifle, Kelly said, patting. Her weapon. Nothing special. Good for medium to large game. Lisa was already running our scanner over the creature. Incredible bone density. Muscle fiber like nothing I've ever seen. The brain structure is fascinating too. This was definitely an intelligent predator. Sam jumped down from the sled. Elder Zenthara, this creature is amazing. Your planet has evolved the most successful apex predator I've ever studied. The efficiency of the design is just incredible. But the Elder was not thinking about scientific efficiency. He was staring at the dead Shadowmaw like it was a miracle. In all our history, no Vellani has ever killed a Shadowmaw. In 1,000,000 years, it has never been done. Really? Kelly asked. You never tried guns? We do not have guns, Catherine explained. We are peaceful people. We grow things. We build things. We do not kill things. Alex had finished his examination of the creature. He was practically bouncing with excitement. Captain, I need to start preparing this immediately. Meat this fresh won't stay good forever, especially in this heat. Jake looked at the crowd of Vellani, who were still staring at the Shadowmaw in shock. Alex, maybe we should be sensitive about this. These people have been afraid of these creatures for their entire civilization. Afraid of them, sure, Alex said, but they've never eaten one. Captain, This could be the greatest meal in the history of two species. Elder Zenthara overheard, and his skin went completely white. Eaten? You want to eat the shadow mole? Of course, Alex said, looking confused. Why else would you hunt something this big? You can't just let good meat go to waste. The elder turned to Jake. Captain Morrison, surely you do not intend to consume the flesh of this monster? Jake looked at his chef, then at his crew, then back at the elder. Well, yes. That was kind of the plan. A young Vellani in the crowd fainted. Several others started backing away. But some of them, Jake noticed, looked curious rather than horrified. This is how humans hunt? Asked an older Vellani with scars on his crystal skin. You kill the predator, and then eat it? Pretty much, Rick said. Though usually we cook it first. Lisa stepped forward, recognizing a teaching moment. Elder Zenthara, on Earth, humans are apex predators. We hunt and eat other predators all the time. Bears, large. Cats, wolves. It's completely normal for us. But the shadow maw is death itself, the elder protested. The shadow maw is meat, Alex corrected. Really good meat, from the look of it. Sam was nodding enthusiastically. From my analysis, this creature should be perfectly safe for human consumption. High protein, good fat content, probably tastes amazing. More Vellani were gathering. Word was spreading through the Crystal City that the humans had not only killed a shadow maw, but planned to eat it. Some came to stare in horror. Others came out of curiosity. Alex began setting up his mobile kitchen near the Phoenix. He had brought a full-field cooking setup, designed to handle large game in hostile environments. Within an hour, he had a proper butchering station ready. I'll need help moving this thing, Alex called out. Kelly, Rick, and Sam immediately volunteered. Jake grabbed the other end of the hover sled. Together, they began transferring the shadow maw to Alex's work area. The Vellani watched in fascination as Alex began the butchering process. He worked with the skill of someone who had prepared countless meals from large game. His knives moved with precision, separating muscle groups and identifying the best cuts. This shoulder section should roast beautifully, Alex explained to anyone listening. Look at the marbling here. And these back steaks, probably best grilled. The leg meat might be good for slow cooking. Catherine approached cautiously. You have done this before? Many times, Alex said, not looking up from his work. Different animals, same principles. You find the good meat. You remove the parts you don't want. You cook it properly. And it will not poison you? Lisa answered that one. My scans show. The meat is safe. Actually, it's probably very nutritious. High in protein and vitamins. An old Vellani pushed through the crowd. He walked differently than the others, with more confidence. His crystal skin bore many scars. I am Warkeeper Thainter, he said. I guard our city from the jungle dangers. Jake stepped forward. Honored to meet you. You really killed this shadow maw with those small weapons? Thainter asked, looking at Kelly's rifle. Yes, sir, Kelly replied. 3 shots. Thainter walked around the butchering station, studying everything. And now you prepare to eat it? That's the plan, Alex said, separating out a particularly nice-looking cut of meat. Want to try some? The Warkeeper's crystal skin flickered with colors Jake had not seen before. My people have hidden from these creatures for 1,000 generations. You kill one and invite us to dinner. Why not? Jake asked. There's plenty to share. Elder Zenthara looked like he might faint too. Warkeeper, surely you do not consider this madness? But Thainter was studying the dead shadow maw with new eyes. Elder, I have fought these creatures for 60 years. I have seen them kill hundreds of our people. I have lost friends and family to their claws. He paused, looking at Alex, who was now seasoning a large piece of meat with herbs from his kit. But I have never seen one dead. I have never seen one defeated. These humans, they do not fear what we fear. They do not run from what makes us run. He looked directly at Alex. What do you need to prepare this meal? Alex grinned. Just thyme and fire. Oh, and maybe some local vegetables if you have any good ones. Catherine stepped forward. I know where the best crystal fruit grows. And I can bring ember roots, said another young Villani. Elder Zenthara looked around at his people with confusion and growing alarm. You cannot be serious. You cannot actually want to eat the Shadow Mole. Why not? Asked Fainter. If the humans can kill it, maybe we can eat it. Maybe we can finally take something back from the creatures that have taken so much from us. Alex had started a fire and was preparing his first cuts of meat. The smell began to fill the air, rich and promising. This is going to be incredible, he said to Jake. I think we're about to make history. Jake looked around at the crowd of Villani, some horrified, some curious, some actually excited. In the distance, he could see more Villani coming from all parts of the city. Alex, he said quietly, I think you're right. The smell of cooking Shadow Maw filled the air around the Phoenix. Alex Rodriguez worked over his field kitchen like an artist creating a masterpiece. The meat sizzled on his grills, while larger cuts roasted slowly over crystalwood coals that the Villani had provided. The internal temperature is perfect, Alex called out to Jake Morrison. Another hour and we'll be ready to eat. The crowd of Villani had grown throughout the day. What started as a few dozen curious onlookers had become nearly 1,000 aliens gathered around the human camp. Some came to stare in horror. Others came to witness history. A few came because they were genuinely curious about what Shadow Maw meat might taste like. Elder Zenthara stood with the other city leaders, his crystal skin flickering with nervous patterns. This is madness, he whispered to his advisors. They treat our greatest nightmare like a simple meal. But Warkeeper Thainter had moved closer to the cooking area. He watched Alex work with the fascination of someone seeing magic performed. How do you know it will be safe to eat? He asked. Same way we know any meat is safe, Alex replied, checking the temperature of a roasted section. Cook it properly, don't eat the organs we don't recognize, and trust that Dr. Parker's scans were accurate. Lisa Parker looked up from her data. Tablet. The protein structure is actually very similar to Earth mammals. If anything, this meat should be healthier than most things we eat. Catherine had returned with a group of young Villani, carrying baskets of crystal fruit and ember roots. We brought vegetables, she announced. Though her voice shook slightly, Alex accepted the vegetables with genuine excitement. These look incredible. The colors are amazing. How do you usually prepare them? We eat crystal fruit fresh, Catherine explained. Ember roots are usually boiled with light spices. Mind if I try roasting them with the meat? Alex asked. The flavors might work well. Together, an old Villani female pushed forward. Her crystal skin was clouded with age, and she moved with the careful steps of someone who had lived a very long time. I am Memory Keeper Velthara, she said. I hold the old stories of our people. Jake stepped forward respectfully. Honored to meet you, Memory Keeper. In all the stories, in all the memories passed down through 1,000,000 years, no one has ever eaten a Shadow Maw, Velthara said slowly. The very idea would have been considered madness. Maybe that's why they've been such a problem, Kelly Barnes suggested. She was cleaning her rifle nearby, keeping watch for any other Shadow Maws that might be attracted by the smell. If you never fight back, predators get comfortable. Sam Cooper was still taking pictures and measurements of the cooked meat. From a biological standpoint, this makes perfect sense. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We track down large prey and consume it, It's completely natural. Memory Keeper Velthara studied Sam with her ancient eyes. And what happens to the hunters when they eat the thing they have hunted? They get stronger, Rick Chun answered. He was helping Alex prepare the vegetables. That's how it works on Earth. You eat what you kill. You take its strength. Several young Villani moved closer. They had been whispering among themselves all day, and now one of them stepped forward. Warkeeper Thainter, if the humans can kill the Shadow Maul, can we learn to kill them too? Thainter looked at Jake. Is this something you could teach? Basic. Hunting and weapon safety? Jake considered the question. I don't see why not, if your people want to learn. Elder Zenthara heard this, and his skin flashed bright red. Absolutely not. We are peaceful people. We do not kill. You don't kill because you never had to, Kelly pointed out. You had safe cities and crystal barriers. But what if you didn't? What if you wanted to explore your own planet? Alex announced that the first portions were ready. He had prepared several different cuts of Shadow Maul meat, each cooked using a different method. Grilled steaks, roasted sections, and even some strips that he had smoked over sweet crystal wood. Captain Morrison, Alex said formally, dinner is served. Jake looked around at the massive crowd of Villani. Some looked terrified. Some looked disgusted. But many looked curious, and a few looked actually hungry. Elder Zenthara, Jake said, would you and your people like to join us? This seems like the kind of meal that should be shared. The elder's skin went completely white. You want us to eat the Shadow Maul with you? Why not? Alex asked, cutting generous portions for the human crew. There's plenty for everyone. Jake picked up his plate and took the first bite. The meat was tender and flavorful, with a rich taste that was somewhere between beef and venison. Alex, this is incredible. Lisa tried hers next. The texture is perfect, and the flavor is amazing. Sam was making notes while he ate. The nutritional density must be incredibly high. I feel like I could run a marathon after eating this. Kelly finished her first piece and reached for seconds. This beats military rations by about 1,000%. Rick was mixing the roasted ember roots with some of the meat juices. These vegetables are incredible too. They taste like they're glowing from the inside. The human crew ate with obvious enjoyment, discussing the flavors and textures like they were at a fancy restaurant instead of eating their planet's most feared predator. Warkeeper Thainter watched them for several minutes. Then he walked forward and stopped in front of Alex. May I try some? Alex grinned and cut a small piece of the grilled meat. Start with this. It's the mildest. Thainter took the meat and stared at it for a long moment. The entire crowd went silent. Even the elder stopped protesting and watched Dot, the Warkeeper, put the meat in his mouth and chewed slowly. His crystal skin began to change colors, cycling through patterns that none of the humans had seen before. Well? Alex asked. Thainter swallowed and stood quietly for a moment. Then he looked up at the crowd of watching Villani. It tastes like victory, he said simply. That broke the dam. Young Villani started pushing forward, asking for their own taste. Catherine was among the first, followed by several other scientists and even some of the city guards. This is impossible, Elder Zenthara said, but even he was watching with fascination as his people tried. Shadow Maw meat for the first time in their species history. Memory Keeper Velthara approached Alex slowly. I would like to try some, she said, for the stories, so I can tell the next generation what it tastes like to eat fear itself. Alex gave her a particularly tender piece. The ancient Villani chewed thoughtfully, her eyes closed in concentration. Well? Thainter asked. It tastes like change, she said quietly. It tastes like the end of one age and the beginning of another. More and more Villani tried the meat. Some loved it immediately. Others needed time to get used to the idea. But all of them seemed amazed that they were doing something their people had never done before. Elder Zenthara found himself standing, alone as even his own advisors went to try the Shadowmaw meat. "This is not right," he said to Jake. "This changes everything. Does it have to be a bad change?" Jake asked gently. Before the elder could answer, a young Vellani came running from the city. "Ships," he called out. "Ships in the sky. Visitors. From other worlds." Jake looked up to see 3 alien vessels descending toward the landing field. "Looks like word is getting out about our dinner party." Alex was already preparing more food. Good thing I cooked plenty. As the alien ships landed and their crews emerged, Jake realized that what had started as a simple meal was turning into something much bigger. Representatives from a dozen different species came to see the impossible sight of humans eating their host planet's apex predator. But it was the look on the Vellani faces that told the real story. For the first time in their history, they were not the afraid ones. They were not the ones cowering while others were brave. They were the ones eating the monster. 3 months had passed since the first Shadowmaw feast, and the crystal city of Valtar looked completely different. Where once the Vellani had stayed safely within their barriers, now groups of them could be seen preparing for expeditions into the jungle. The sound of weapons training echoed from the practice fields that Warkeeper Thainter had built near the city center. Jake Morrison stood on the Phoenix's observation deck, watching a mixed group of humans and Vellani return from a successful hunt. Kelly Barnes led the group, followed by 6 young Vellani carrying their first Shadowmaw kill. Their crystal skin glowed with patterns of pride and excitement. "I never thought I'd see anything like this," Lisa Parker said, joining Jake at the window. An entire civilization changing its fundamental relationship with its environment in just a few months. Below them, Alex Rodriguez was setting up his expanded kitchen operation. What had started as a simple field cooking setup had grown into the most popular restaurant on the planet. Beings from dozens of worlds came to Valtar just to taste Shadowmaw meat prepared by the human who had started it all. "The economic impact alone is incredible," Sam Cooper said, reviewing his data tablet. "Tourism, hunting expeditions, meat, exports." The Vellani went from a closed society to a major galactic trade hub almost overnight. A group of young Vellani ran past the Phoenix, carrying primitive spears and laughing with excitement. They were heading to the training ground where Rick Chon taught basic hunting skills to anyone brave enough to learn. Catherine approached the humans with her usual 4-armed greeting, but now she also carried a rifle across her back and wore the practical clothing of someone who spent time in the jungle. "Captain Morrison," she said with a smile, "the Council of Elders wants to speak with you." Jake raised an eyebrow. "All of them? Even Elder Zenthara?" "Especially Elder Zenthara," Catherine replied. "Much has changed since you arrived. The Council chamber was one of the most beautiful buildings in the Crystal City. Light flowed through the walls like water, creating patterns that shifted and danced. The 12 elders sat in a circle, their crystal skin reflecting the moving light. Elder Zenthara stood as the humans entered. He looked older than when they had first met, but there was something different about him. The constant anxiety that had marked his features was gone. "Captain Morrison, Dr. Parker, all of you," he began formally, "we asked you here to discuss the future of our peoples." Jake took the offered seat. "What did you want to discuss?" "Change," said Memory Keeper Velthara. "Incredible, impossible change. In 3 months, you have done what we could not do in 1,000,000 years." Warkeeper Thainter stepped forward. "Our young people no longer fear the jungle. They hunt where their grandparents could never go. They bring back meat and knowledge and pride. Our trade with other worlds has increased 100-fold, added another elder. Ships come from across the galaxy, to see the world where humans taught aliens to eat their nightmares. Elder Xanthera looked directly at Jake. I fought against this change. I believed it would destroy us. I was wrong. Lisa leaned forward. How so? Come, Elder Xanthera said. Let me show you. They walked through the Crystal City to an area that had been empty wasteland when the humans first arrived. Now it bustled with activity. Valani of all ages worked alongside humans and aliens from other worlds. There were workshops building, hunting equipment, restaurants serving Shadowmaw meat in dozens of different styles, and schools where Velani children learned about the wider galaxy. 6 months ago, we were a dying civilization, Elder Xanthara explained as they walked. Our young people had no challenges, no adventures, no purpose beyond maintaining what their ancestors had built. They were leaving for other worlds because there was nothing here for them. They stopped at a training ground where Kelly Barnes was teaching a class of teenage Velani how to track large predators. The students listened with intense focus, asking questions and practicing the skills with obvious enthusiasm. Now they stay, Elder Xanthara continued. They have something to do, something to prove, something to accomplish. They are not just maintaining the past, they are building the future. Alex Rodriguez's restaurant came into view, and the humans could see the line of customers stretching around the block. Valani served beside humans, and the menu offered dishes from a dozen different worlds. The Shadowmaw Grill has become famous across 3 sectors, Catherine said proudly. Alex has trained 50 Velani chefs. They're opening restaurants on other worlds. And the hunting expeditions? Jake asked. Booked solid for the next 2 years, Warkeeper Thainter replied. Beings from across the galaxy want to hunt the legendary Shadowmaw. We guide them safely, we share the meat, and we tell the story of how humans taught us not to fear. They reached the edge of the city, where the jungle began. But this was not the Forbidden's wasteland it had once been. Clear paths led into the green depths, marked with signs and safety stations. Groups of mixed hunters and tourists moved along, the trails with confidence. The Shadowmaw population is actually increasing, Sam observed, checking his scanner. Now that they're being hunted sustainably instead of just avoided, they're spreading into new areas. A managed predator population is a healthy predator population, Rick added. Same principle works on any world. Memory Keeper Velthara joined in at the jungle's edge. I have been recording the new stories, she said. The children who will come after us will know about the time before humans, when we hid in fear. And they will know about the time after humans, when we learned to turn fear into strength. Elder Xanthara turned to Jake. Captain Morrison, your mission was to explore our world and establish diplomatic relations. You have done much more than that. We just shared a meal, Jake said modestly. You shared courage, Elder Xanthara corrected. You showed us that the thing we feared most was just another challenge to overcome. You gave us back our own planet. A group of young Velani returned from a hunting expedition, their crystal skin glowing with exhaustion and triumph. They carried between them a smaller Shadowmaw, probably a juvenile. Their human guide, one of Kelly's trainees, looked equally proud. First successful solo hunt, the guide called out to Kelly. These kids did everything right. The young Velani were immediately surrounded by friends and family, all wanting to hear the story. But Jake noticed that the celebration was calm and practical. This was no longer an impossible miracle. It was just another successful hunt. The galaxy has taken notice, Elder Xanthara said quietly. Other worlds with similar problems are asking for help. Planets where the inhabitants have been driven into small areas by dangerous predators. They want to learn what we learned. And? Jake asked. We are sending teams, Warkeeper Thainter said with pride. Velani and humans together, teaching other species how to reclaim their worlds. We have become the teachers instead of the students. Alex appeared from his restaurant, wiping his hands on his apron. "Captain, we've got a problem," he said with a grin. "What kind of problem?" "The good kind. I've got orders for Shadow Maw meat from 40 different worlds. I can't keep up with demand. We're going to need a bigger operation." Lisa laughed. "Alex, I think you've accidentally started an interstellar food empire." "Not just food," Catherine corrected. "Culture, philosophy, a whole new way of thinking about fear and courage." Jake looked around at the transformed city, the busy jungle paths, the mixed groups of species working and learning together. "When we first arrived, I thought we were just making contact with another alien race. Instead, you started a revolution," Elder Zenthara said. "A revolution that began with a simple question. What if the thing you fear most is just dinner, waiting to be cooked?" Sam was already making notes for his report to Earth Command. "The cultural impact study is going to take years to complete. This is probably the most dramatic civilization change in recorded history. And it all started because someone got hungry." Rick observed Memory Keeper Velthara smiled, expression that looked strange but wonderful on her ancient features. "The stories I will tell. The human who taught an entire world to eat its nightmares. The day fear became food. The beginning of the age when Velani stopped hiding and started hunting." As the two suns began to set over Veltar, Jake Morrison looked out at a world that had been completely transformed. In the jungle, mixed hunting. Parties were setting up camps for the night. In the city, restaurants served impossible meals to impossible customers. And in the distance, more ships were landing, bringing visitors who wanted to see the planet where everything had changed. "Mission accomplished," Jake said quietly. But as he watched a group of Velani children playing Hunter and Shadow Maw in the Crystal Plaza, he realized that the mission had never really been about first contact or diplomacy. It had been about showing another species that the scariest monster in the world was just another item on the menu. That lesson, he thought, was probably worth the 18-month journey from Earth.